Picture this, 16 minutes after the final horn in sunrise, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman is handing the Stanley Cup to Aleksander Barkov for the second straight June. Add Tampa's back-to-back banners from 2020 and 2021, and you realize 4 of the last 6 cups now live within a 3-hour drive on Interstate 75. That's not parity, that's a beachfront monopoly. How did 2 franchises once mocked as retirement home expansion teams seize control of a league built on hard salary caps and draft lotteries? Tonight we'll uncover the tax code loophole luring superstars south, decode Paul Maurice's plug-and-play war plan that turns depth forwards into playoff predators, and reveal why every copycat contender keeps failing to douse this Sunshine State dynasty. Hang on, because the answers will change how you watch hockey forever. But to grasp the scale of the problem, you first need to see how quickly Florida went from punchline to powerhouse. 5 summers ago, the Panthers had 0 titles, and the Lightning were known mostly for a shocking 2019 sweep at the hands of Columbus. Then, boom, Tampa lifted the cup in the pandemic bubbles of 2020 and 2021. Florida followed with its maiden championship in 2024, then repeated in 2025 by flattening Connor McDavid's Oilers in 6 games. 4 rings in 6 seasons, each carved with palm trees instead of maple leaves. Meanwhile, original 6 giants like Toronto and the Rangers keep counting decades, not banners. The league trumpet about anyone can win suddenly sounds hollow when the Stanley Cup parade route keeps ending at a strip mall Publix. Dominance that sudden usually smells like money. Only here, it isn't the cap hit, it's the part after taxes. Florida levies exactly 0% state income tax. In Ontario, a $9 million salary shrinks by roughly $720,000 before a player even picks up a stick. Agents call this bonus Miami math, and they whisper it in every free agency pitch. Matthew Tkachuk's post-trade extension pays him less gross than he could have squeezed from Calgary, yet he banks more after deductions. Same for Sergei Bobrovsky, Sam Reinhart, even ring-chasing vets like Brad Marchand on cut-rate deals. Front offices insist the edge is overblown. Rival GMs grumble off the record. Bettman shrugs that players sign where they want. But cap-strapped clubs in New York or California know every July 1st that their bids begin at a 7% handicap. Still, tax breaks don't forecheck. That sleight of hand belongs to the man behind Florida's bench. When the Panthers fired 2021 Jack Adams winner Andrew Brunette after a President's Trophy season and hired serial bridesmaid Paul Maurice, pundits called it self-sabotage. Maurice called it risk management. Dump the puck before danger, chase it down with numbers, and suffocate mistakes before they bloom. 1 month later, GM Bill Zito iced the philosophy by flipping 115-point winger Jonathan Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk, a locomotive built for trench warfare. From day 1 practices drilled a single mantra: play fast, play forward, play mean. If skill had space, great. If not, punt it deep and hit something until space appears. Critics dismissed it as dinosaur hockey until that dinosaur breathed fire through 3 straight finals. But a creed is only as good as its congregation, and on this roster, every line recites the same sermon. Florida's attack starts with a 1-2-2 forecheck, so ordinary you'll find it in junior team manuals. The difference is ruthlessness. F1 angles the puck carrier into the wall. F2 and F3 storm the dot lanes. Both defensemen pinch so aggressively the blue line feels like a cage door slamming shut. Because an F3 always hovers high, pinches rarely burn them. The eternal cycle forces turnovers, and suddenly any Panther, top-line star, or fourth-line grinder looks like a playmaker. 9 different players topped 15 playoff points over the last 2 runs, a depth stat no other contender matched. Opponents face not one elite trio, but a relentless conveyor belt of identical wrecking balls. And when those wrecking balls don't have the puck, the real stranglehold begins. In the neutral zone, Florida's skaters keep gaps so tight you could wedge a credit card between sticks and sweaters. The first line of resistance stands at the Panthers' own blue. Miss that, the second springs at center, miss again, and you're forced to dump or die trying to dangle. Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, David Pastrnak each saw his zone entry wizardry neutered the same way, leaving box scores eerily quiet. McDavid, 4 goals in 13 games across 2 finals. Nikita Kucherov, bagel in 10. Behind that wall lurks Officer Bob. Sergei Bobrovsky still challenges out on the white ice, while newer goalies hide deep inside the blue. When the pads are hot, passes arrive at his post a beat late, and desperation shooters discover no daylight. Shutdowns like that breed not only wins, but a culture outsiders are now begging to join. Glitz has never wooed bruisers to Broward County. Winning has. Last autumn, Brad Marchand, hated elsewhere, celebrated here, signed a 1-year, $3 million prove-it deal at age 37, quoting a chance to chase history at his introductory presser. Inside the room, the motto is simple: no passenger survives the heat. Undervalued NCAA free agents, Swedish late bloomers, former locker room cancers, the Panthers grab them cheap, plug them into the template, and watch them bloom. Scouts obsess over motor and mindset more than highlight reels, because in Maurice's scheme will beats thrill. Result, a perpetual talent conveyor that stays under the cap while other contenders empty farm systems at the trade deadline. Seeing all this, the rest of the NHL tried to fight back, and mostly tripped over its own ambitions. First came coaching poaches. Detroit nabbed assistant Sylvain Lefebvre. Seattle hired video guru Miles Fee. Arizona even copied Florida's swarm jargon on day 1 of camp. Every imitation stumbled when players balked at the grind or missed tiny reads that glue the puzzle together. At GM meetings, desperate execs proposed banning goaltenders from playing rimmed pucks outside the trapezoid to nerf Florida's dump and chase advantage. The motion failed by 2 votes. Western teams bulked up with heavier bottom sixes, but chemistry lags when you rebuild identity overnight. Meanwhile, the Panthers just kept rolling lines and cashing wins, and the calendar suggests the storm is far from over. Back-to-back banners have vaporized any old jokes about empty seats. Amerant Bank Arena sells out months in advance. Playoff ticket prices rival Broadway, and owner Vincent Viola spends to the salary cap ceiling without blinking. The pipeline keeps humming. 2023 first-rounder Charlie Stramel torched the AHL with 28 goals. Russian puck-moving defenseman Mikhail Gulyayev arrives next camp on an entry-level cap hit. The NHL's upper cap is set to rise another $4 million next July, letting Florida re-sign Sam Reinhart and beef up the blue line. And remember that tax-free sunshine, it isn't melting anytime soon, so if you're a rival fan hoping the magic ends, brace yourself for bad news. 4 cups in 6 seasons, a forecheck that crushes skill under a tidal wave of will, and a geographic cheat sheet Wall Street bankers would envy. The Sunshine State has tilted NHL gravity south. Every other franchise now wakes up to the same nightmare. Florida is no longer a feel-good Cinderella, it's the league's final boss. A system so ruthlessly consistent that it turns parity into parity. Think about the ripple effect. Draft models are already warping as clubs chase Panther prototypes. Heavy feet, heavier forearms, and lungs built for 60-minute sprints. Front office spreadsheets scramble to measure relentlessness per dollar, while ownership groups weigh lobbying for tax-adjusted salary cap credits just to stay competitive. Even ticket scalpers feel the shift. Empty seat jokes have mutated into secondary market feeding frenzies, with playoff stubs fetching Super Bowl prices under the Florida sun. And the horizon? It looks even brighter for the Cats. A rising cap, a stocked farm, and a culture that devours complacency means we could be staring at the league's first true post-cap dynasty, unless Bettman's rulebook adds new roadblocks, or a rival invents an even nastier blueprint. The engraver might as well buy permanent sunscreen and a Fort Lauderdale P.O. box. So here's the question that should keep every GM up tonight. Do you tear up decades of philosophy to clone the Panthers, or gamble on out-innovating them before next June? Because until someone truly rewrites this Florida formula, the Cup's parade route might stay anchored to the coast. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the moment the rest of the league finally cracks, or maybe finally cracks the code. See you in the next breakdown.